Tonight, we're featuring Chelsea in Germany.
Giroud! Oh, what a goal! What a goal! Olivier Giroud!
We need to study very well the opponents because we want to get to the final.
There's Arafilicueta. No ball into Hazard! With the finish!
We only had the opportunity in 2013 during this competition. It was never easy until the end, so let's take it step by step.
With me, Matt Scott, as usual, and our commentary team tonight, Jim Proudfoot and Sam Parkin, getting ready for what's a huge match for Chelsea Football Club. Maurizio Sarri's been given the instructions, hasn't he, Jim, by the owner, get me in the Champions League by hook or by crook, and I think he probably looks at the scenario and thinks the Premier League might be the easier way. The bookies think so.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the most important thing for Sarri is just getting there. I think that he feels that his job is on the line, and probably that he will be looked at more favourably if he finishes fourth but ends up runner-up in this competition than if he wins this competition and ends up fifth or sixth in the Premier League. Now, that sounds counterintuitive, but you get the impression from some of the statements that have been made from Maurizio Sarri that is his thinking, and that is how he feels that he will be regarded. This competition tonight seemingly very much the number 2 priority, but the bottom line is that if results their way, at the weekend, they get a decent result tonight, they can go into the second leg knowing that the Champions League place is already assured, and then he can prioritise the second leg and hopefully run a Chelsea perspective the final.
Obviously, it's Arsenal who have the worst away record in the Premier League, as we all know. It keeps being trotted out by everybody always, but Chelsea are flying under the radar a little bit, given that they've lost 7 to Arsenal's 8 in the Premier League this season.
Everybody outside the top 2 has lost 7 or more away from home in the Premier League. I think the stick that Arsenal get beaten with, Matt, and you and I are going to disagree on this, is the way that Arsenal occasionally have just capitulated away from home. It's the manner of the defeats, but Chelsea haven't been immune to that either.
No.
If you look at some of the performances,
6-0 at City, 4-0 at Bournemouth.
Absolutely, those two.
Yeah, so I mean, I just think that they're always vulnerable away from home, and that could bite them tonight.
Yeah, but they went to Dinamo Kiev and they won that 5-0. I'm not pretending that Eintracht Frankfurt aren't a better side than Dinamo Kiev, but it just depends on how Chelsea approach the game or which Chelsea turn up on the night, because they are capable away from home. There's no doubt about that. And I just think that Eintracht will. They've not got a good record against the elite teams in the Bundesliga at home, and I think that is something that will come back to haunt them. They haven't beaten any of the top 5 in the Bundesliga at home this season. I think that Chelsea are of that standard, so it'll be interesting to see what happens tonight. But I do expect that Chelsea will get a positive result.
Sam, do you think it's counter-attacking football for Chelsea to start off with and see how it goes?
Yeah, I imagine they'll start really fast. The 2 wing-backs are going to be key for them, and I think they go and try and get after the ball in the final third, and that should allow Chelsea some space, particularly in behind those 2 wing-backs. But I understand the 2 outside centre-halves of Frankfurt are very comfortable going into wide areas, so it's going to be up to Willian and Pedro to try and have the better of those 2 if they do get a little bit of room. And obviously without Hazard, it's very important that those 2 have big games, and likewise Olivier Giroud, because if they do press with this intensity that I understand they do, especially in the home games, it may just be that Jorginho and David Luiz will have to play slightly longer in towards Olivier Giroud, and it's imperative that he gets hold of the ball, it doesn't just come straight back, and that's always a concern when you've got 3 physically imposing centre-halves up against you.
The thing that concerns me looking at the Chelsea team, though, is the complete lack of pace. I mean, Pedro's got a bit, but nothing like Hudson-Odoi and Hazard as well. With both of those out of the game, obviously Hudson-Odoi through injury, but Hazard rested for the start of this game. They don't have a great deal of pace up front. Giroud is obviously, pace has never been his thing, though he's wonderful with the ball at his feet. It seems to me that plays into Eintracht Frankfurt's hands if they want to be pressing very high and playing on the halfway line.
Yeah, it's 2 wide guys, Willian and Pedro, are potentially nearing the end of their Chelsea careers. They haven't had that consistency, and they want to come in off the line, don't they, and link with Olivier Giroud. So that is a concern that it's going to be all in front of them. The one player in amongst that, Matt, is Loftus-Cheek. He is someone who can get the ball and go beyond people.
Yeah, but again, not the quickest.
Not the quickest, but when he gets into his stride, he's very, very powerful,
he's powerful, that's
and
right.
he's got the close control to go with it. And you know, whenever you come up against that in football, it is a very tricky proposition. A big, physical athlete who can also handle a ball. And
You've seen me play then.
I think he's so important tonight because you look. I think you're spot on. If you look at that, there's lack of pace and there's a bit of a lack of mobility. But with him, he'll break in beyond you. And what he does, which I like, is he gets in the box from the opposite side as well. If Azpilicueta puts the ball in, he actually makes up the numbers and gets in the 18-yard box. And that's I know it's such a simple thing, but there's not a big goal threat in this Chelsea team.
No.
He does that really well. And Pedro, yeah, it's not been his best season, but at least he gets in and around the 6-yard box and gets across people. When he's not in the team, Chelsea severely lack that.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, you have to say, what an atmosphere building in the Commerzbank Arena. Eintracht Frankfurt, 60,000 fans in there tonight. It really is spectacular to look at. The other semi-final first leg, not far from where I'm sitting right now in North London at the Emirates. Arsenal at home to Valencia, but Chelsea have got a job on tonight. Just a reminder before we hand over to your commentary team, Premier League Live, TalkSport 2, Match Day Live, 3 o'clock kickoff this Saturday. West Ham against Southampton. I'll be hosting. Ian Danter and Perry Groves, your commentary team. 5:30 on Saturday, Cardiff against Crystal Palace is over on TalkSport. Sam Metaface and Stuart Pearce. Derby West Brom here on TalkSport 2. Well, a big game that could be for Derby County. Sunday, the 5th of May. Nigel Adley and Simon Grayson, your match commentary team for that. This is Chelsea's 9th semi-final in Europe in the Roman Abramovich era. And let's be honest, usually they do pretty well in Europe, don't they? Wonder how they're going to do tonight in Germany to take us through the first half. Your commentary team, Sam Parkin and Jim Proudfoot.
Well, 3 European trophies in a decade. And there are 2 more hurdles. Maurizio Sarri's #1 objective might be to earn a place in the top 4 of the Premier League. But having already earned a place in the top 4 of the Europa League, that Champions League lifeline is within touching distance. Their opponents are fighting on the same 2 fronts. 4th in the Bundesliga, 3-point advantage over the chasing pack. But Eintracht are basking in the glory of the European adventure in waters that are uncharted for more than a generation. They did win the UEFA Cup back in 1980, but this is their first European campaign for 5 years, let alone their most successful one for decades. They made it back into Europe by winning the German Cup. A 3-1 triumph over Bayern in last season's final, the final game before coach Niko Kovac upped and left for Bavaria. Having reached the final the previous season as well, they've shown a pedigree in cup competitions which has served them well on the continent over the last few months. Having won every game in the group stage, they've seen off Shakhtar, Inter Milan and Benfica to get this far, with a quarter-final victory coming after being 4-1 down with 10 men at one stage in the first leg. Underestimate them at your peril. But nevertheless, Maurizio Sarri has rotated again, a policy which has brought success in the Europa League so far, but which has been undertaken tonight with more than one eye on Sunday's match with Watford. Eden Hazard left on the bench, Giroud, the competition's leading scorer, back in place of Higuain. Chelsea lining up with Aretha Balaga in goal, Azpilicueta and Emerson are the fullbacks, Christensen and David Luiz, the centre-half partnership. Christensen started every game in this competition so far this season. The midfield 3, Conte, Jorginho and Loftus-Cheek. And in the absence of Hazard and the injured Hudson-Odoi, it's Willian, Giroud and Pedro, the forward line. Zappacosta, Alonso, Kovacic, Barkley, Hazard, Higuain and Caballero on the bench for Chelsea tonight. Eintracht have Kevin Trapp in goal, Abraham, Hinteregger and Follett, the likely 3 centre-halves, Da Costa and Kostic at wing-back. Sevi, the Japanese international veteran, will anchor the midfield. Fernandes and Roda, ahead of him, Gacinovic in support of Jovic up front. And on the bench, Ndika, former Swansea man De Guzman, Willems, Toro, Chandler, Paciencia and Frederick Runau, the substitute goalkeeper, the Danish international. It is the first ever match between these 2 teams. The second one next week. Most important thing, as far as Chelsea are concerned, Sam, is that they're just in a position to be able to complete the job next Thursday. They don't have to get it won here and now. What's a pass score for Chelsea, do you think?
Well, I think they take the draw, certainly, but to get an away goal would be magnificent. And we obviously know how Chelsea set up by now under Maurizio Sarri. Going to be interested to see what the home side do. 4 centre-halves in there for them, so we're expecting Hasebi to play as a holder and just the one out-and-out forward. So maybe you could take that as they're maybe going to congest the middle area and get after Jorginho. We've seen teams get success, certainly the early part of the season. That could be a tactic for Eintracht Frankfurt this evening.
Well, it's Chelsea that will get the game underway in all yellow. Eintracht in all black with white trim. And we are underway. The first leg of the Europa League semi-final. Chelsea kicking from left to right as we look at it. The long ball launched forward and headed away straight away back towards halfway. And David Luiz will be able to pick it up for Chelsea and swing another long right-footed ball forward, which is straight down the throat of the German international goalkeeper Kevin Trapp. We'll keep you up to date with everything that's going on at the Emirates tonight. Arsenal in action against Valencia in a beat of the 1980 European Cup Winners' Cup final. Ian Abraham's there for us, and he will keep us informed with everything of consequence that happens in that game, the second leg of which is live on Talk Sport 2 next week. Eintracht work a long ball forward out towards the